hey, didn't see you there. No, I'm totally kidding. That was horrible. I'm Emma Vahey. I'm a member of the Objective 350 team, and I'm going to jump right into it. So, I just want to start out by introducing myself and telling you why I'm here today and what I'm here to do. So, I am here as part of the Let Me Clear Something Up series. I have to say, I'm maybe not the most super sciencey person you've ever met, but that does just go to show you that even if you're not super sciencey, you can care enough about this issue to try to make a change. Let me back up. What issue, you might be wondering? The issue of climate change, as I hope Claire has introduced fully enough. Now you may be wondering, why am I interested in climate change if I'm not super sciencey? Well, last fall, I was lucky enough to go to the People's Climate March in New York City, and that was how my eyes were really opened. There were a bunch of signs there, and they were all really interesting and motivational, and a lot of them said we're all in the same boat. And that made me realize, I want to help myself, and that's really important. But more than that, I want to be able to help my parents, you guys, the future generations to come. The climate is changing, so why aren't we? And with that, I want to go into the third segment of Let Me Clear Something Up, with the topic of the economic ramifications of climate change. Now, that probably sounds a little bit daunting, but I can really boil it down, and I think I can do so in a pretty good manner. So, money is a thing. It's a cool thing. We all like to have it. But climate change is also a thing. It's a not so cool thing, and we all pretty much want to avoid it. So here's another thing. Climate change equals less money. What? Yeah, you heard me right. The economic ramifications of climate change are real, and they're going to cost us some moolah. In fact, this is already starting to happen. I know. It's happening in a couple of ways, though, not just one, and not in confusing ways that you're not going to be able to understand. The first way is causing potential damage to infrastructure or property. So, our changing climate is causing some pretty crazy things, as I'm sure you know. There are things such as crazy drought. You can check out California's situation. They only have a year of water left in their reservoirs. That's not a lot of water, because their reservoirs are massive. But that's not the only thing that's happening. Wildfires, rising sea levels, which I'm sure you've all heard of, and flooding. So all this environmental turmoil has costs, obviously. There are costs associated with any giant environmental thing that's going on. But the thing is, not all countries can afford those costs. Well, we're lucky enough to live in the United States, where there's much in the way of disaster relief aid. That's not the case in many other nations, including island nations such as maybe the Philippines or Indonesia. They would be much more affected by rising sea levels, but they don't necessarily have the economic stability or even the capability to handle something like that. So not only do we hurt our planet and our home, as has been emphasized by others before me, but we hurt the flow of money throughout the globe. So while Claire might argue that science runs the world, I am here to politely add that society is run by money. And climate change adversely affects that, which is kind of an issue. So second, lost productivity. Okay, that probably sounds really strange and odd and unfathomable to those of you who haven't taken any economics courses. So let's boil this one down too. Let's say Farmer Bob produces 400, stalks of corn in 1 week, if he's operating under his normal conditions. So now let's add in climate change. Because of the unpredictable, uncooperative weather, Farmer Bob's crop yield is limited to, unfortunately, only 250 stalks of corn. But not only that, because there's also a drought going on. So Farmer Bob becomes severely dehydrated and can't actually work in the field, which brings his crop yield down to 250. But not only that, because there's not enough water for the crops to actually grow as they should, his yield is brought down further to only 200. As you can see, with just one small example, people are individually affected, like Farmer Bob, and that affects our economy. If people are not able to continue contributing to society as they previously have, due to climate change, we will experience a loss in efficiency and therefore a loss in productivity, which is, again, kind of an issue. So last, marine life will die. That sounds kind of overwhelming. But there are people who say it's not a huge deal. We don't see those little animals at the bottom of the ocean very often, so it doesn't matter, right? Wrong. Very wrong. Rising CO2 levels, this is science, by the way, means more ocean acidification. So we have to relate this back to the economy. So why is it bad for the economy? Okay, I can do science. Just like you and I need a certain pH level, that's level of acidity or basicness, in our blood and our organs, these little creatures in the ocean need a certain level, a certain pH level in the ocean in order to sustain themselves. So the increasing levels of CO2 mean that the oceans are actually getting more acidic. So that means the pH is going down, and at a certain point, these little guys aren't going to make it. And the important part of this is that these little guys are part of a much larger picture. Perhaps you've heard of food chains. So with fewer of these creatures at the bottom of the food chain, that means that other species with limited food are eventually going to die off. So eventually it will affect us because they are part of our food chain. And not only that, but we will be saying sayonara to the seafood industry. If a sector that large is essentially eliminated from the economy, you can bet there will be economic repercussions, and large ones at that. So basically, let's bring it all back. Money is good. We like money. And now we're aware that climate change gets in the way of money. The more you know, right? So climate change isn't just about saving our world, it's also about saving our society. If you don't have environmental priorities, no big deal, because now you know that's not the only way climate change affects us.